We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
You are listening to The Underground Marketing Conspiracy, a secret ritual where entrepreneurs acquire highly classified and confidential business knowledge that the top 1% of income earners don't want you to know. And now, your host, Maddie Milligan.
What is going on, my fellow conspirator and conspirators? Welcome to The Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo! All right, let's talk about time management. It's the end of 2020 right now. I believe there are, 11 days left in the year right now. So I'm in the process of really coming up with my goals that I want to achieve over the next decade and also throughout the next year. And I'll be completely honest, I'm absolutely awful, really, really bad at time management. A lot of the time I just, for whatever reason, won't follow my calendar, which is super dumb. So one of the main things I would recommend doing is having a calendar for yourself and booking in everything that you need to do. I like Stephen Covey's option, or his, I guess it's some sort of system that he uses. He teaches it in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where you basically go for Sunday and you spend a few minutes and you just map out the next week. And doing that once a week on Sunday, that's how you should be planning your time. Not in days, but in a week. When I think about this, time flies so quickly, and I feel that the older I get, time just goes by quicker and quicker and quicker. And every minute and every second, it just goes by super fast, and it feels like time is completely different when I was younger, when I just felt like I had a lot more time. So that's why I like to plan my time in basically a week, where it's like, all right, what do I need to accomplish this week? It helps you really plan out every single day throughout the week as well. It allows you to put in random things too, when it's like, oh, I want to hang out with friends here. It's like, oh, I need some thinking time here. Or I put in smiling time and laughing time in my calendar sometimes when I'm feeling sad, or it's like, oh, I haven't smiled in a while. And maybe that's, again, just time when, I don't know, I just clap my hands or something just to kind of feel better and get myself out of, maybe I'm in a bad state and I don't feel good. Maybe I'm feeling anxious or slightly down on myself. That's what I like to do, is just really plan out the times, as well as just scheduling in time to create my content, scheduling all my time from day to day for different calls. Keep in mind that your day is always going to change. There's going to be people who are going to cancel their meetings with you, so that opens up opportunity for you to have other meetings. Or I would have work set up so that when people do cancel those calls, that you have things to do in that time. So you're not just sitting around twiddling your thumbs. There's other things for you to do. You can move on to the next thing on your calendar, and then if things will change, and eventually you'll probably need to get a virtual assistant. I'm kind of at that point where I'm like, do I want to hire like a full-time assistant and just have them plan everything, and then they can just organize stuff. They can do all sorts of administrative tasks for me, and that just opens up all sorts of my free time. But in the meantime, I'm just using virtual assistants when I need them, to be honest. No one full-time yet, really just paying them hourly when I need them. So that's how I start planning my time. But I think it's important as well, where you really understand what your long-term goals are. And a lot of people talk about what your why is, because your why is really going to help you stay on track and help you stick to that schedule that you're setting up for yourself. And I think, again, it's very important with your calendars that you schedule time for yourself to just relax and think, and really just get a bird's eye view of everything else that's happening. And I'm going to start as well, I'm going to buy a notebook and just start writing down day to day what I have planned out for that day, and just kind of cross those things out. When I was in probably my most productive points a few years ago, I remember I would do that with this book. Like, I would have it very organized, and as things happened throughout the day, I would write them down and cross them off. And I don't know, I think it has this weird psychological effect too, when you actually strike things out and it's like, oh, it's done, and you kind of get that initial achievement. It's just as like a quick dopamine hit, where it's like, oh, I'm getting things done. It just motivates you to get the next thing done. When I plan out my day, though, there's a book I highly recommend called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And you don't necessarily need to read the whole thing. I'll give you the gist of it right now. What he suggests doing is you do the most the hardest thing that you need to do that kind of gives you the most anxiety, that almost makes you sick in the stomach, like eating a frog, you need to do that first thing in the day. It's like you wake up, maybe you eat or you have coffee or whatever, and then you get on to that a priority task, right? That most important thing that you need to get done right then and there. And it just makes the day a lot easier. It's like, oh, now I can do these less difficult things throughout the day, right? But I think that's beneficial as well. The main reason that's beneficial is because you wake up in the morning, you just you're energized, you get to that first thing right away, and you knock that out. However long that takes, that really depends on the task that you need to do. And this just helps you stay focused as well. And it's kind of like the big domino, where if you can knock that one domino over, it's going to make all the other tasks that you do, the rest of the tasks that you do throughout the day, a lot easier. There's other tools as well that I would recommend using. I like Trello. For my calendars, I honestly just use Google Calendar, to be honest. I'm sure there's other better calendars out there that people will suggest after they hear this, but I like that. I like Trello for all sorts of different things. I know this one guy who he shared with me a couple of his ones, and they're honestly like next level Trello boards, to be honest, because I thought I was okay at doing them, but I saw his and I'm like, all right, this guy puts me to shame. And he just understands the idea of cards and boards and how they work and how you assign different people stuff and how tasks move along. That's a good tool. There are some setbacks of using that where it's not as automated and you do need people to manually click buttons. So if you want more automated project scheduling, I think things like monday.com, for example, that's a pretty good one. And then there's other things you could use as well for communicating with your customers, and all sorts of customer relationship management software you could use, like Asana. I've seen that works pretty well. If you're managing teams, I think a tool like Slack is absolutely useful. We used to use that in my old company. You do need to pay for their higher version as you scale your business, but it's a very good communication tool, right? There's also Basecamp, which is kind of like the next level up, I would say, from Asana. It's a little bit more complex, but I've seen all sorts of different businesses using that as well. But I like Slack, to be honest. It's a very fun tool. It has all sorts of plugins from third parties and developers who have created these little things to really just make Slack work with all sorts of things. Like you can share Google Documents in there. You can have tools that can set up reminders. You can schedule meetings. You can have it just automatically post things every day. So Slack is an absolutely great tool when you're managing teams or as you're scaling your business. And it allows you to just create different channels at the same time and allow people to communicate with one another. But I think that's important too, because with tools like that, when you're using them with your calendars, that helps you plan your time a lot better when it has those reminders. The only downside is that a lot of these tools, you'll have it on desktop as well as your phone, and maybe it's an app you want to have the notifications on or off. But I personally, I don't like notifications on my phone. I don't like it making noises. Whenever people have their phones in public and they make noises, I kind of get a little bit irritated, to be honest, because I feel that you should turn off those devices in a lot of cases to just, I guess, turn yourself off and really just to wind down for the day and get yourself unplugged. But that's why I really like to schedule thinking time, right? Because those are times when I can just turn off my phone, turn off my computer, maybe just grab a book, maybe, I don't know, watch an episode of one of my favorite shows, like just escape for a little while from what I'm doing. And then I notice when I come back to the task, I'm just a lot more focused, right? Because I think throughout the day, you only have so much willpower and you only have so much discipline. So doing that most important task first in the day is very important. And then if you have things on your list that aren't C or D list, or they are C and D list priorities, where it's not that crucial for them to get accomplished that day necessarily, where it's just like smaller day-to-day things, then when you do those later on in the day and they're a lot easier, you've kind of exhausted your willpower throughout the day. So when there's super easy things you need to do where they're not high priority, it's like, whatever, let me just do these things very quickly. They don't take up much brain power. And in some cases you can even have music, or I don't know, maybe have like a YouTube video on in the background and just kind of knock those out. And that helps me unwind at the end of the day. And oh yeah, and I'm scheduling as well more my gym, because one of my goals is to start waking up every day at 5:30 or 4:30, depending on which day of the week it is. And I just want to do that. And then starting to go to bed as well earlier at night. That's one of the things that I really need to do. And I have a calendar on my wall next to me, so that's where I just usually put kind of bigger picture things. But then ultimately, my Google Calendar is my main thing, and then that's connected to a few other tools that I have running as well. But I think, again, planning in advance is really your main thing. There's this old quote, I think it's from Benjamin Franklin, but I originally heard of it in, I think it's this John Wooden book, where it's, when you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. And that's absolutely true, right? If you don't plan ahead, if you don't have your time set up, basically you're just going to do whatever. You're just going to, waste time on YouTube. You're going to look for other content. You're not going to know what the next steps are. When you plan ahead, you basically just set yourself up, right? You're thinking ahead and you're putting yourself in the future, and you're preventing yourself from failing, right? I believe they say the devil lives in the white space in your calendars, and this is absolutely true. When you're sitting there and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, you're just going to do very mindless things that aren't going to be productive whatsoever, right? Whether that's going to get coffee, gossiping with friends, watching TV or movies, or spending too much time on social media, all those things that aren't going to move you a step closer to your goals, whether it's in your personal life or in your health goals or in your relationships. When you don't really have that stuff set up ahead of time, you're setting yourself up for failure, right? So if I were you, I would recommend, again, it's the end of 2020, start thinking of your goals, but actually start creating that roadmap, right? Putting those things into your calendar so that way you know when things are happening, and that's just going to make you more productive long term, and that's ultimately how you are going to reach your goals. Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. If you did, I want you to consider subscribing. Consider sending me an email if you have any questions or if you have any feedback to undergroundmarketingconspiracy@gmail.com. Maybe even want to leave a review if you're listening to this on iTunes or Spotify, so other listeners can know that if they listen to these episodes, they can get lots of value of them. I would also personally appreciate that, so I can get some feedback to see how I'm doing, maybe understand better what sort of topics or content you would like to see as well. My name is Matty Milligan, and I will see you next time on another episode of the Underground Marketing Conspiracy. Woo!